So let us continue our session. Pavel Luzanov will speak about certification in Postgres. My name is Pavel Luzanov. I work in Postgres Professional, and I'm in charge of educational projects. This is a small picture from our site. There is a section called Education, which I'm related to. So we deal with documentation, training courses. Here we also have the item called certification, which we are going to cover today. And there are other things like books, for instance. You've probably seen that at the booth of our company, you can get the books like this. They can also be obtained electronically on our website. Before I speak about certification, I must say the following. We have the breaking news about books. Late last week, we got a new book, The Basics of Database Technologies, written by Novikov. It was placed on our website. It was edited by Yegor Rogov. This book can be downloaded and read. Some of you may say, this is not breaking news. This book was available 1 year ago. It was published a year ago. This is the book that you can see. It's a hard copy. But I open the content and see that this is the second part of this book. So this book will be bigger, includes 600 pages, and in February you will be able to order a hard copy, or it will be available in the bookstores. But you can already read an electronic version of the book. This is a book for slow and thoughtful reading about how databases operate with a perspective on Postgres. Back to the certification issue. Let's go back a little bit. A year ago, at this very conference, in this very building, but in a different room, I spoke about how we had finalized reforming our administration courses and how we were thinking about certification. We understood then that we would deal with certification, but at that point it was not enrolled. We thought we would do it during 2019. So this presentation was given a year ago, and today's presentation is an extension of what I was doing last year at this conference. So what have we done in the past year? We have launched the certification program, and in the menu under education, you can find the certification section with a drop-down menu. This is not a very big page dedicated to certification. We have carefully selected each word in each sentence to avoid anything excessive, so to make all the words relevant and important to be read. Peter Ducker says that there are people who perceive information as they read, and there are other people who better take information as they listen. So those who like reading can find the information on the website. Those who like listening, I will try to reproduce what is written on the website with some additional details. In any case, it's important to understand that the certification program is based on our courses, so you can consider the tests held not as an opportunity to listen to some training course, but also to have your knowledge certified, to prove that the knowledge is there, that you have digested it. Similarly, as in school or in college, there is a test or an exam in the end. So there is nothing unusual. Many other software companies create similar systems, so we decided to follow that path. So certification is training-based, training courses-based. So our courses on administration always use the word PostgreSQL. It is based on vanilla Postgres, not on Postgres Pro or Postgres Standard or Enterprise. So we teach vanilla Postgres. This only shows that certification is based on vanilla Postgres as well. There will be no questions about Postgres Pro Enterprise. In the future, we may have that as well, and we will announce that additionally. But today, the case is that it is vanilla Postgres based. So back to my previous presentation, I spoke in detail about administration courses, but you can follow every link to understand what is in it. So this is the plan. I spoke last year. For DBAs, there will be one certification, and for developers, there will be another certification. So we spoke largely about DBAs, about DBA certification. There will be several layers of certification. Level 1, we called it professional, and at this level you have to prove the knowledge at the level of DBA 1, which is the basic course. Here we should have the SQL course and demonstration of the knowledge of SQL. But for many reasons, we do not have that course yet. People coming to Postgres, these are the people who dealt with other databases, and they already know SQL. So the SQL course was not of primary importance. We have a lot of resources, so you can learn SQL, all the standard things. But probably the professional level will include two tests, one on SQL and one on DBA 1. But so far it does not include SQL. Most importantly is that our courses are based on Postgres version 10. We know that we had the October release of Postgres 12, and this year we're going to have 13, but the courses are based on version 10. And this is not so bad, because most industrial systems have not transitioned to version 12, and version 10 is not an obsolete version. So for the certification, it's enough, and questions in the certification exams will be related to version 10. So for those who have already migrated to version 12, you may find it unexpected to see questions about DBA 3 related to recovery conf, which is non-existent in version 12, as you know. But as for the rest of the questions, there won't be many differences between version 12 and version 10. So the course is based on version 10, and the exam is based on version 10. So the next level is the expert level. The remaining 3 courses, you'll have to take a test on all of them. If you are successful, then you'll get to the expert level and the appropriate certificate. So those 2 levels, professional and expert. So you can get those certifications through theoretical tests, but it would be great to demonstrate practical knowledge. And to do this, we offer another level, the so-called master level, which will be made of a purely practical test. Not even a test, you will have to perform a number of tasks, assignments in the system related to any topic of the course, of the theoretical course.
For example, we understand that we want one server to work well. It wasn't set properly. it had some load, and probably we tuned automatic vacuum, and we had some control points set, and we prepared replication and had some backups and something else. So something like this actually. But this is also marked gray here. I mean that we remember about that. We will do that, but we cannot do it right now. Now we're focused on the first two levels, and returning to them, I think it's quite clear that if you want to pass certification, you should pass the test on DBA1 course. That gives you the opportunity to get professional certificate, and only after you pass this test successfully, you can start taking a test for expert level. There are 3 exams here, and you can take them in any order. So we do not limit it anyhow. And speaking about the launch, actually this was our plan, and our life was similar to this plan. We didn't change anything. On the 1st of June, we launched the first level of professional, and we started taking exams on DBA1 course. So during summer, we actually had these exams. So on the 1st of September, we launched the second level, that is expert level, and it is possible to take all the 4 exams now. So over this year, and actually it's not completely a year, it's only half a year, we did this kind of work. And what can be interesting for you in terms of statistics? Well, I won't speak about statistics right now. What about the future? In future, we will see a moment when version 10 is outdated, and we will need to use a different version 12 or 13. We should think about that. Anyway, the approach will be as follows. First of all, the courses should be updated, and after that, the tests for a new version of a course would be updated. So it's not like tests appeared first and courses appeared after them. We do not plan to have it this way. And if you passed complete certification on version 10, so you passed 4 tests quite successfully, and new range of certification is issued, for this person not to take all these tests once again, because of course they have the basic level of knowledge, we will devise a simplified procedure that will enable them to pass from expert 10 to expert 11. So this will be a test devoted to the changes, to the modification. You don't have to worry about that. Yes, I will gladly answer all the questions, but I think that it's better to answer questions in the end. So, what has happened? Over the time, while we had been taking these tests, it was quite similar from the very beginning. From the very first tests, we saw a trend where half of them were successful and half of them were not. That is true not only for DBA1, that is true for all kinds of exams. I don't know what should change, I don't know what should happen for it to change. Probably the sampling is not big enough, but today the picture is like that. That is for your information, to understand that, for example, if someone thinks that they came to a training center, attended a course, and it will be easy for them to pass this exam. Well, actually, it's not always like that. We do not have statistics regarding the people that took a specific course. I hope that if you take a course, it will increase your chances a lot, but still, it's quite possible that you won't pass this exam. This is a reality. And speaking about the level of preparation and the result of the test, actually there are 4 possible options here. 2 of them actually are quite clear. If a person knew it and passed the test successfully, that is normal. If a person didn't know it, they didn't pass the exam. That is fair enough. And regarding these two squares, we actually have no questions at all. But there are two other squares as well. A person didn't know the material, but they passed the exam. What can we do about that? Well, actually, we do not want anyone to get into these squares. We'll do our best to minimize the number of people in these two squares. So what can we do about the top left square? So let's return to school. For example, a student doesn't know the material, but they need to pass an exam. What do they normally do? They can copy. So we should. It means that people should fight copying. Actually, we do not fight copying at all. During the test, you can use Postgres documents. You can use the materials of the course. The only thing is that you have time limitation. You should be able to do it in time. But what should we fight with? Friends' assistance. So we should be sure that it is this very person who is taking the exam and no one helps this person to answer the questions. And what is an important outcome of this situation? They frequently ask us, is it possible to take this exam remotely? Well, it can be easily organized technically, but the problem is that in this case, it won't be clear how to control that it is this person that passes this course, not someone who does it instead of them. If we require the use of cameras, for example, well, it will add a significant complexity in terms of technical arrangement, and we're not ready for it yet. And this is the reason why right now we accept the students to take the exams only in the office of our company, because there is a person that actually monitors people in the test room for them not to use their cell phones or messengers. We have actually CBC, a camera that records everything that's going on in the room, and by the agreement that we offer, if this rule is violated, we can make the result of this test void and this person will be in the blacklist. So this is the reason why we do it. We don't want people to get into this square. We want the certificate issued to people to confirm knowledge, not an opportunity to manipulate during testing. And the second measure that is also important here is that our tests are not free. You have to pay for them. You know that there are some courses and training centers and you pay money to take a course, but actually the materials are present on the website and you can get the materials for free. But we take money for testing, and this amount of money should be quite significant, because if these tests are free or if the amount is not significant at all, then well, it's like you can order 100 exams, for example, if it's very cheap. You can come first 5 times just to see whether it will work out or not, and after that you will realize whether you need to prepare for a test or not. And for the candidate to be more responsible, to get prepared for the test in advance, actually we take some money, although as far as I know, for our company, actually certification is not the main source of our income, but it's like a side effect. And there is another square here. A person knew the material but didn't pass the exam, and that is really sad. So this person has a good level of knowledge, but somehow they didn't manage to pass the test. So probably this person was too nervous or something. And frequently for this purpose, they ask whether it's possible to see preliminary questions to understand the way it will look like. And in the remaining part of my presentation, I will try to give a few recommendations and to show some examples of questions, just for you not to get into this square, to avoid that. How can we get ready for a test? Well, first of all, any test is based on a specific course. Even the name of the test and the name of the course are similar. It means that you need to have knowledge that corresponds to the volume of this course. And the best way is to take a course in a training center. The worst option, well, I can move away from the topic actually. The worst option is when they offer you to train remotely. So in the company, they decided actually that they do not want to send you to the training center, and on the web there is a trainer and you can connect this trainer remotely from your laptop, and this teacher will teach you remotely. In my opinion, this is one of the worst options. Normally the teacher speaks to the screen and they do not see whom they're talking to, and on the other side it's always possible to disconnect because no one will ever control you. So I think that this is a bad option actually. A good option is when you work several days and these several days are devoted to training only, and you only do training. If you decided to see the materials on our website, please note, so there are people that are used to perceive information in the auditory format. Watching a video is not always sufficient. The matter is that on the video you will not see the comments to every slide, that is present in our presentation, because it can contain some additional information that was not represented in the video. And for sure, these slides have links to the sections of documents that you need to read. And apart from that, the video doesn't have information about solving practical tasks. And this is also an important part of the course, and that's why I would like to emphasize it. Once again, there is a question. Is it really necessary to take a course in the training center? No. We do not have this requirement. And you don't even have to check the materials of the course on the website. No one will make you do that. If you have a lot of practical experience and you actually understand everything about this course, in that case you don't have to see this course on our website. But what is important here? Russian terminology is important. All our courses are in Russian, and all our questions are in Russian. And sometimes there can be a misunderstanding in people that are used to reading in English. Well, just an example for you. For example, there can be a question like, what statements are true for streaming archive of vol segment? Are there people here who do not understand what I'm speaking about? Everyone knows what this archive of segment wall is, but I think that somewhere there are such people that can fail to understand that. Well, the topic is quite simple. It means that in Postgres, continuous archiving is present, and wall segments can be archived in two ways. When we switch on archive mode parameter, and the server will give us these files after it fills them in, or we can use PGCwall utility and connect it directly. We can connect our server directly and we will get a segment. So these are two different ways. This is file, archive, or streamline. And in our courses, we actually specify these terms and we use these terms in questions. But I'm not sure that if you are used to English, to have English documents, you will understand what it is. So it's better to read Russian documents. Actually, the documents will be available to you. Our website will be available to you, and it's possible to switch it from Russian into English. But still, it's important that you should be able to use it and understand what it is about. And actually, it is even more important for reference sections. Of course, it's not appropriate to read the documents, all the documents, because there are some sections that should be read completely, and there are some reference sections, and you should be able to find information quickly there. For example, some commands of SQL utilities of command line or Postgres client utilities and server utilities, and configuration parameters, how to find them fast, and where it is and how to find it quickly. It's better to learn it in advance. And apart from that, I can give you a recommendation as follows. Although there are various graphical utilities that you can prefer using in your working with Postgres, and even in this conference we had about dbeaver, datagrift, pgadmin, and probably you use them. But our courses use PSQL as a client, and we're completely sure that all Oracle. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. That was a real slip of the tongue. All users of Oracle should be able to work with SQL Plus, and all users of Postgres should be able to work with PSQL, and database administrators should be able to do it for sure. There are also developers probably can fail to understand everything. We can understand that. But still, the skills will always be useful. I'm sure in that. So you need to know the main commands of PSQL, and when something is shown on the screen, you should know how to interpret it. And after that, I will show you several questions, and I will show you that these recommendations can be useful. So I don't know whether you can see this question or not, but I can comment on it. The task was to find some questions so that, I actually wanted to find some questions that would fit into the slides, and I didn't want to read them for a long time, and I wanted them to be quite demonstrative for you. So the question is, how many databases are created during cluster initialization? You should write an answer here. You know, a major mistake is if you write template 0 plus template 1 plus Postgres is equal to 3. This is correct answer, but the system will consider that it is incorrect, because actually there should be a number here, and it compares the answer with the number. Right now, we are manually rechecking all the results of the tests, and several times, not in this question actually, but on some other questions, we saw these examples when a person wanted to demonstrate that they do not only know the answer, but they also can actually describe this answer more specifically, but in this case, it won't do. What are acceptable values of log destination parameters? What are the options here? Well, it's not really important. You can always say, why do I need to know it? Why do I need to remember it? For example, you use Euroblock, it is written somehow, it works, and that's it. So just if I know it, I will always be able to check it in the documents. So it means that you should open the document and check it. Besides, finding log destination parameters is easy in the document. You can do it within several seconds. And actually, we give 1 minute and a half for every question. It means that it will be easy for you to find answer to this question in the documents, even if you didn't get ready for it preliminary. So you do not need to memorize everything. This kind of question. What of these options are role attributes? Create connector application login. For example, you don't remember whether login is an attribute or not. But what do you need to know? You need to know that a role is created by create role command. And if you open the documents and find this command, you will see the attributes, and you will be able to find the necessary ones. Actually, answering this question requires knowing documentation or this kind of question. Where does system catalog stores schemas, descriptions? And you can see the options here. So the documentation has a chapter that is system catalogs, and the context of this chapter has a list of them. And even if you are used to using the Beaver, pgadmin, or data grep, and you know that there is a plus on the schema, you can open it, and they're shown from some place, and actually, yes, it works. That's clear. That's a clear story. However, you can easily open this chapter in the documents, and you will see that half of these options do not exist at all, and out of the remaining ones it will be easy for you to understand which table contains the description of schemas. This kind of question. We have a query, this kind of query, and it's quite simple with common value expression. So the question is, how many columns will be provided to us on the screen in PSQL with the results of this query?
So you don't need to read the query itself. You need to know what is /gx in the end. If you know what this command does, the answer will be obvious. If you do not know, you'll have to be guessing. So therefore, you need to know the PSQL commands and also the conclusions from those commands. For instance, /dp for certain sequence is given, and you are offered to select the privileges which the Bob role can use for the given sequence. And here, on the one hand, we need to know what privileges can a sequence have, and also you should understand the conclusion and interpret it in the right way. Without having practical knowledge of how it happens in PSQL, it will be not easy. Yes, you can check the documentation, but you will have to read too much to find the right answer. You may not have enough time to complete the exam. Therefore, practical knowledge in PSQL is necessary. As you work with questions, keep an eye on how mandatory the statements are. For instance, words like maybe, sometimes are used. Sometimes it says always mandatory. So please pay attention to those words. For instance, which statements about PG catalog are true? For instance, it says here, may not include in search path catalog. Probably the answer would be yes. Or PGS catalog objects will always be found first. So by default, indeed, they are found first, but does it always happen? Are there instances when they will not be found first? And this is the point of the question. So you either select it or not, depending on what you know. So when you come to an exam, you'll be seated in front of a computer. You'll be registered in the system. You'll be offered to press the button, the start button. But in your place, I would do the following. Before the testing, I would open the course materials, the website page, to understand where the presentations are and where the topics are covered. Open the documentation covering SQL commands or configuration parameters upon your choice, just to save time in finding interesting things, important things, so that you have all the references on the tips of your fingers. And then press the start button. During the test, not to waste precious seconds if you suddenly see that the question is wrong, or you see that the question is inaccurate or dubious, or you do not have enough input data to select the right answer. The first recommendation is immediately or with a pause, read it again, read the question again. But even if you read it for the second time and you still believe it is an inaccurate question, then put down the number and tell the examiner that question 15 or 24 was wrong to your point of view. So the examiner will give us those numbers and we will check what the difficulty might be. You may not even explain what was difficult. For instance, you can say, question 15 is strange or looks strange to me, and then we will check it twice to understand, because in the beginning we had instances like that, when we saw that there was something wrong with the question and took certain actions. After the test, if after the test you feel sad, so the most frequently asked question is, can we see what the wrong answers were to understand where I made mistakes? Even those who were successful in the exam still ask, were there any wrong answers? Unfortunately, we cannot show you the questions and answers, because if we do this, if we show everyone what was right and what was wrong, we would simply disclose too much information about the exam content. So we try to avoid this, as many other out vendors do, those who do certification. If you believe something was unfair, if you believe you had to pass the exam but you didn't, so do not be in doubt. You don't need to appeal against the exam outcome. It has been appealed already automatically. The system has been adjusted for that. So right after the exam you can immediately see the result, but there are two independent experts verifying the answers, trying to put themselves in the shoes of the person taking the exam, and trying to understand whether the answer could be interpreted as the right answer, or was the question dubious or unclear. So if we believe it was our issue, we consider the answer to be true, to be correct. There were cases when there were a couple of points needed to pass the exam, and when we believed the questions were not good or the answers were still right, we helped people pass exams, so we gave them those points. If you fail on an exam, you can come once again. We do not limit the number of tries, the number of attempts, not in terms of number or time. Just get registered. You can come like one day after and do it again, but certainly I would recommend to take time and prepare before you come and take the exam for the second time. But we do not have any restrictions, however. If you are successful, depending on which exam you took, you would be issued a certificate of a professional or expert level with your name, last name, and number of the certificate. We have the certificate database, and by the number on our website you can see whether a given certificate was issued to a given person. And I hope that those who come for the certification with the appropriate level of knowledge and skills will certainly be on that web page with the certificates. If you have any questions about certification, how to enroll, how to register, how to take the exams for the second time, why did you not receive the certificate? So here is the email address where you could write to. And because we also develop courses, if some city invites us to come over and give a training, one of the trainees at our universities, to our students, we oftentimes say yes. So if someone wants to invite us, we are open to those invitations. And I would like to take this opportunity and say, so what we do in education is interesting to you if you know how to teach, how to explain things in written form and in oral form, and if you know Postgres, so write to us and maybe we'll find ways to cooperate with you. Pavel, thank you. Now questions. Pavel, thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of short questions. Number one, are there any weights assigned to questions? In other words, are all questions equal in terms of weight? Yes, all questions are equal in terms of weight. Roughly, you can say that if we have 18 topics in our course and each topic takes up a certain amount of time, the amount of questions on this topic will be proportionate to the time dedicated to that issue in the course. Although it is not always the case. In DBA 1, there are two final topics, replication and backup copying. Their weight is slightly higher than the rest of the questions, but in general, the number of questions are proportionate to the number of time dedicated to a given topic. Another question: how many databases are created as the cluster is initialized? And also a question about auto vacuum. Will they be the same in terms of price? Yes. In terms of price, for each question you will get 1 point depending on the number of questions. So you need to get 75% in order to pass. So out of 50 questions, one accurate answer equals 2%, and you need to score 75 in order to pass the exam and get certified. About accurate, inaccurate answers, or true or false answers. If it is a multiple choice, what if I selected one out of the two necessary multiple choice answers? So in this case, we do have the concept of partially accurate answers. For example, if there are two multiple choice bullet points that you are supposed to select, and you selected only one out of two, you get half of the point, but you still get half of the point, not zero. So even if you select half of the right answers, you'll get half of the point. But if you select one right, one wrong, you will still get zero, because you'll get half of a point for the right answer, and you will get minus of the point for the wrong answer. That's fair, I understand. The last question: are you planning to prepare materials, some mini training courses on the changes I think I understand your question. I tried very carefully not to answer this question by saying that we believe, that we're thinking about the so-called simplified procedure. Oh, yes, indeed. How can we understand what is the difference between courses for version 12 and for version 13? I don't know which form it's going to come from, but certainly we need to make a course on the changes. But whether this course will contain information to cover the full course, I do not know. It may be a separate document. Yes, we have that in mind and we're thinking about it. Thank you. I have two questions, so don't be scared. Question number one, the debate branch, are there going to be a separate branch for developers? So to launch the certification system for developers, we would need to develop a set of courses for developers. Yes, and the question is, are you going to have it in the foreseeable future? Well, it all boils down to the word foreseeable future. So we have Dev 1 and KBT courses. This is for developers. So this year we hope we will get Dev 2 course. So as soon as we have it, so you can start getting ready for certification of developers. So I guess those Dev 1 and Dev 2 will be able to make up the expert level of training and appropriate certification. I have a feeling that this year all those courses will not be in place. A year from now, when I give this presentation again, maybe I will tell you. And question number two, you said that exams could be taken only in Moscow, but you can be invited to give a course in another city. Would it be possible to invite you, for instance, to the Urals, to Perm and Ekaterinburg? So would it be possible to invite you to Perm or to Ekaterinburg to teach and then to take exams, to give certification exams? If you are invited to come and teach, we will probably come, especially to Ekaterinburg, because we have never been invited there. We can invite you to Perm. Well, we haven't been invited to Perm either. But once we come over, we could probably organize examinations for those who would like to take them. This is possible. Without a training course, if today we're saying that if someone is invites us somewhere, and if we have, if you say you'll have 20 people who are ready to take exams, we will come and take those exams. I'm sure we will not leave those 20 people unnoticed. We have a lot of people who could take exams, but they cannot be sent to Moscow at the same time. Also, PF delegation question. Do you delegate rights to take exams to anyone? Well, they will take an oath. We have just launched this certification and examination, and we still see how it's working. Yes, I understand your question. We discuss it on a regular basis. We'll probably come to this, to the delegation. But at present, I can't really say anything to you. The second question is about the exam itself. Do you provide documentation of the database also? No, we do not provide the database, although we did have ideas about it. Does it make sense to give you this question if we provide access to PG and SQL? On the other hand, I don't think it's bad if a person does it in PSQL and then answers the question. That only shows that he knows how to do it. Our goal is to understand whether the person has the knowledge or has an ability to find the right answer quickly. We're not saying that it is necessary to memorize everything. And also, yes, we would like to have this developers courses and certification. Two more questions. You may find my question strange. Are there people who have taken all of those exams? Yes, we do have such people. And how many? I hope it's not confidential information. We've had over 100, but below 200 attempts to take exams. So do you mean to say one person came and tried to take an exam 100 times? No. What I'm saying is that there were more than 100 attempts to take our exams. There were people who took the exam twice. If half of the people take the exam successfully, pass the exam successfully, that means we have about more than 50 professionals, and there are people who have taken all the 4 exams, who have passed the 4 exams. And I'm serious about it. This is true, what I'm saying. Is certification important? How I can explain to an employer, to my employer, that it is important for me to take an exam? For instance, if you are an employer, you should care about your people improving their skills.
So you have specific budget for training, and I think that we don't have any doubts in the way we can explain why people should learn something, attend some courses. That is quite understandable. But if a person attended a course, we do not know whether they learned something there or not. How can we make sure that this person really learned something? Well, this person can pass a test. And if they pass a test on the course, it means that this course was not fruitless. So in my opinion, the main idea for the employer regarding this test is to control the knowledge of their employer. For example, I am a manager, I'm not aware of Postgres configuration parameters, and it means that we need to have some independent system of knowledge confirmation. And another option that can be used by employers is as follows. You decided to fulfill a project with Postgres, but you decided not to engage your employees. You decided to engage external consultants. How can you make sure that the people that come to you are well qualified? Well, of course, the main and the most appropriate variant is to see what they did before that, and actually their reputation should show that they're able to do that. But sometimes, well, it's not related to Postgres, it's related to other manufacturers. I actually was engaged in some projects when it was necessary to have dozens of consultants. How can we check that they know something? If some people show certificates, I hope that this can also be an argument to select a contractor. Thank you. Okay, we can ask the remaining questions behind the scene. Let's thank Pavel for the presentation. I will be here till the end of the day, so you can come up to me and ask your questions. And now we will have a break till 3 o'clock, so you can have lunch.